And what do you get when you pay close to $200 for an Xbox Elite controller? You get a overpriced subpar controller with buttons that break. This is the second time, in fact, I've replaced the left bumper on this controller. And here's why they break. Because the buttons are simply plastic and they're held together with thin plastic. It reminds me of when I used to build model cars as a kid. So what happens is stress fracture, these end up breaking, and as you see, the button's no good. So I'm going to replace the button again. Now there is a kit online that includes these cheap little screwdrivers, a button, and this guy here. And so there's a screw underneath the battery in the battery compartment. Now chances are you will not see that screw to begin with, because the Xbox comes with some warranty bullshit paper over there that you have to peel off to get to that hole. Now the next is the tricky part. You gotta pop these sides off here to get to the screws underneath. So much if you've ever taken apart a cell phone or a laptop for that matter. If you've ever taken apart a cell phone or a laptop, basically you just go around the gap, you pop it open, and there's another screw here. We'll have to do the same thing on this side. Take my, or I can break it. But since I had taken this one apart before, I can just get it out with my fingernail and pop it off. That's pretty much all this does. You know, you can use something plastic, but do not use like a screwdriver or anything, because you'll gouge the plastic. But as you saw, I was able to do that with my fingernail. And there's the last two screws. Oh. Also, there's screws in the base. So there's actually two sets of screws under each side. And then the top just pops right off. So now you have this. Now this will fall out. This is the piece that you switch your profiles from on top. So when you put this back together, make sure you put your indicator button back in, and it simply slides into that slot there. Now it took me a minute to remember how to do this. How you get this piece off is you want to pull up from both these tabs. You kind of want to pull up and off of the controller from the back, so it's up and off, and you'll see it opens up and will come out. And then you take your new button bar, install it. There's holes in there. There's two tabs in here. There's tabs in there, holes in here. The two shall meet. So now you got your new button bar in there. And as you can see, that horseshoe, that's where it breaks. Right here. So slide the new bar back in. Now at some point, this button will fall out of your controller, and it will drive you nuts because you won't be able to figure out how it is supposed to sit in the controller. So I will just show you. Tab side here sits in that notch. It sits on the ledge like that. So put the green side in the notch, facing the X. Instinctively, you're going to want to try to put it going this way, but that is not where it goes. So make sure it's lined up with the X. Now here's the crazy thing. When you put this on, these finger tabs have to go underneath those brackets. So you see the silver right here, how they go underneath that bracket? Well, that's fine and easy when you're doing it like this, because if you see, when you press in, they press the buttons. That's what's pressing the buttons for you. Problem is when you have it attached to the centerpiece, you got to attach it from the bottom, rotate it in, and make sure these get underneath those tabs, even though you won't be able to see them. And so that's where this gets tricky. All the while keeping this button from falling off. There's buttons on there. Button bar is now installed. So you can see there's a gap. And getting these underneath that tab is the big pain in the ass. So what I did there is I kind of twisted this to make sure they slid under before I snapped it back. Sorry, my light just went out. Hold on 1 second. But anyhow, sorry my light went out. Slid the pieces under there. So now all we got to do is slide our satellite covers back on. One thing I did is the vibration motors wanted to fall out, so I just put blue tape over the whole in place while I fumbled around with this. And as I stated earlier, don't forget to put your profile switch back in. Now, it will only go in there one direction, so you can't really mess that up. Top back on. Make sure our buttons all work and click before we go putting all the screws back in. Now obviously if I was going to make a career out of repairing Xbox controllers, I would buy screwdrivers to do so. And I probably have some around here somewhere. But these little screwdrivers came with the kit and they're handy. But yeah, they're definitely not good for old fingers. Some of you may be tempted to rebuild this with a screw gun or a wireless drill, which is fine. Clearly you're going to say you have trigger control and you're not worried about stripping out the plastic, which I believe you. But as I started out this video saying earlier, this is my second time replacing this button, and I have a feeling I will be replacing it more. And so every time you use a wireless drill on plastic such as this, you increase the speed in which it starts to break down and strip out. And since I don't want to deal with that, I will happily use a manual screwdriver. And now we have what appears to be a working Xbox overpriced Elite controller. Just don't buy one.